Hello and happy holidays to all you out there who are celebrating. We've got the New Year's around the corner. Christmas is coming up. I do apologize for not wearing a Christmas hat. I've kind of made up for it. You can see on the screen that my little profile picture is an elephant wearing some antlers, so hopefully it's a little festive for you. But either way, I broke my record for KP this KVK. I got a whopping 4 billion. Now, if we go into here, you can see in my recent kills, I got 224,608,652 kills this KVK, which does come out to just over 4 billion. So we're going to walk you through the marches that I use this KVK, the gear that I have, and honestly, hopefully you guys can take something away from this. Yes, I am probably a larger spender than most of you guys out there, but I think the general reference for what the best marches in the game are right now at this moment is still exemplified with my marches and the data that I have collected. So let's hop into it. And now hopping into the gear and the armaments, I'll go over this quickly since I did an account review before this KVK, and that's actually a great way to see kind of what I was going into it with. I've since made a few revisions, like this cav set was all iconic 1. I've since upgraded a few things to 2 and 3 because, you know, my imp set is mostly done. I'm just waiting on the horn and ring blueprints before I really finish this out. And, you know, I kind of want to get my field set kind of up to par. So, but real quick, Liu Che, obviously by far my best set. Rally, Garrison, this is what I use. Now, it's not perfect, but I understand. I'm not dismantling Shios. I'm not dismantling an iconic 5 crit set home. So let's just be very clear. The armaments are fine. They're not great. They're not bad. I have a destructive, ironically, but I haven't put it on this thing because this double is actually better than that. Everything else is okay. I hopefully will change my Intrepid into a Forceful. I believe it's Forceful. No, it's actually called Fearless. Forceful is the rare version, so hopefully I'll get this thing up to at least 3 legendary inscriptions by the start of next KVK with the armament swap system coming up. Now, we're going to go into the first primary cav set. This is the cav set. These are the armaments. Not bad. Like I said, I got this Intrepid, so hopefully I can get that new shiny armament for Arch Formation and kind of get rid of this on my cav set, because I do have actually some pretty good ones that I can use instead. Next up, we've got the Skippy. This is my secondary imp set. This is fine. Again, pretty decent. I've refined it. And then these are my wedge armaments that I use on this. Next up is my first archer set. Level 5 boots. Armaments, not bad, right? A lot of hunters. I've won a lot of KVKs. You know, Trajan. This is just on my Trajan for Canyon, but obviously this one on my Shajar. Level 5 boots. Everything else is just normal. And then these are the armaments for that. And then we had my second cav set, which is just kind of the 4-piece set, and then 2 non-set pieces. And then these are my second cav armaments here. And then lastly, we have my third cav set, which again, nothing special. I do kind of regret making the Pendant of the Eternal Night, but it is what it is. And these are not my armaments. In fact, these are the armaments that I was using on my third cav set. And now after a good shave before I go see my family on Christmas, I'm going to go ahead and go over the marches that I actually use this KVK to achieve this goal. So if we hop in game, we go here, go to March, and I used 2 different presets. One was my field set and one was my rally and garrison set. You can see here that for my primary of March that had my best gear on it because it is absolutely insanely strong, I ran Liu Che with Wallace. Why did I not run the Wallace primary? In my experience, the Liu Che primary just simply outperforms the Wallace. It has a much faster march speed, as well as sometimes you just need that AoE to hit first so that you stay in combat, so that Wallace can hit, and then you're just stacking up those buffs, right? My Wallace primary experience was just significantly worse, and that's why I run the Liu Che primary. I also ran the standard Zio with Herman. I then invested into Ragnar just for like the Kingsland fight and maybe a little bit as past 7, but I ran Ragnar with Skippy. I did also run Shajar with Asher Benapal, Huo with Belly, Nevsky Joan, and then XY with William. Now, why didn't I run Huo with William and then XY Belly like a lot of people do? Well, in my experience, the XY William ironically actually outperformed the XY Belly by a significant margin, and the Huo with Belly performed almost the exact same as the Huo with William. So because of that difference in performance with the XY, I opted to change those up, and I actually prefer this. Now we're going to go into the report manager here and you will actually see what I'm talking about in a few moments. But before we do that, we're going to go in my garrison set. Now this is ironically what I ran for probably like 3/4 of the KVK because I was kind of always garrisoning, and you will see that I ran that Gorgo with Hera Garrison, and then everything remains the same except for my other Imp March, which I ran Skippy primary with Liu Che secondary. I prefer this March in my Murder Ball over something like the Wallace, over something like the Ragnar Prime with Liu Che, just because that Skippy debuff, and it's really, really strong. So with that said, let's hop into the report manager so that you can see exactly how I did. Now this is called the Report Manager by Cubist Mike. If you haven't seen this before, it tracks a whole bunch of data and it is an awesome, awesome program. You can see here, you've got your KP ratio, your power ratio. Now, if I don't sort by KP, then you're going to see a bunch of weird stats, right? So we go to KP ratio and you're going to be like, whoa, your Huo Nevsky traded almost 20-1 for the kill ratio. Guys, this is why I don't do it, right? I mean, I used Ragnar with Liu Che in altars. Yes, it did trade about 8-1, really good. I did also troll a little bit with a Ragnar Sun Tzu, still traded 4.6-1, guys. Just saying. But I really didn't use a lot of these marches a ton, so just for the most accurate data that we have for the marches that I use the most, we're just going to go into my total KP. One thing that I will address right before we start going over the marches individually is that you can see here that my total kill points captured was only 2.3 billion. The reason why this is because if I don't have Report Manager actively open and running in the background while I am playing Rock, it does not track the data. So if I am A, on my phone, or I B, just am streaming and don't have this open in the background, it is actually not capturing the data. So you can see that I only actually captured a little bit more than half of my overall data. Now, it's still 2.3 billion kill points. It is a large enough sample size to where I would still say this is conclusive evidence, but there are some things that I did miss while I was capturing all this data. I just wanted to preface that, but now let's get into the marches. So even with my Liu Che and Wallace kind of being benched for the majority of the KVK as I was rallying Garrison, you can see it still traded the most positive out of all of my marches and got me the most KP. This march is bonkers, right? The kill ratio was 4.15 to 1, and then the KP ratio, which is how it actually traded, is 3.82 to 1. Now the kill ratio is because sometimes I'm hitting T4 and I always had T5 in this march, so naturally the KP ratio is going to be a little bit lower because T4 don't give as much KP as T5 does when you do kill them on the open field. Next up, we had my Nevsky Joan at 1.94 to 1, and then we had my ZL Herman at 1.57 to 1. However, it did get my third most overall KP, which honestly is pretty good. Now, next up, I had my Skippy with Liu Che. This march was my second best performing march, and this was my march that had my second infantry gear on it. And again, I would only use this when essentially I was rallying garrisoning, which was a lot of the time. So you can see that this did get me a lot of KP. And I want to preface, you do see up at the top here that my total kill points was only at 2.3 billion. The reason why this is the case is because in order for this to track your KP, you have to have it open while you're playing on the computer. Now, I would be playing on my phone, or very simply, I'd be streaming, and I wouldn't have this running in the background. So naturally, this isn't going to record all of my data. But with that said, 2.3 billion KP and the marches that I used to get there is still a substantial amount of data for us to make these conclusions as to what my best marches were. So we just went over the Skippy with Liu Che. Then we have my Shajar with Asher, which ironically traded better than the Zia with Herman on a KP ratio wise, but got significantly less kills, which I thought was shocking because this just goes to show you how strong of a march ZL Herman is. It just gets obliterated when it gets targeted. Everyone's targeting archers out there, but my Shajar with Asher got so much less KP, it's honestly kind of wild. So if this march didn't get hard targeted, this would probably be up there with my Liu Che with Wallace. But the truth is that I don't have insane archer gear, and this thing just gets targeted in the open field. Even if I have iconic 5 boots, this thing still, it gets caught out, and it is what it is. Next up, we have my Huo with Belly. Now, you can see that I also ran Huo with William under here. I ran them about an even amount of time. The reason why you see that I ran them for an even amount of time is because I was running Huo with William in zone 5 and I was running Huo with Belly in like zone 7 and Kingsland. So you can see that my Huo with William did trade a little bit better, 1.95 to 1, as opposed to my Huo Belly, which traded 1.8 to 1. The actual KP that they gained was pretty similar, but again, I swapped to that XY with William later on instead of that XY with Belly. And then I swapped my Huo with William to that Huo with Belly. And then obviously my worst March was that XY with William, which traded about 1.43 to 1. And ladies, we're not done, because if we scroll down, we actually get to the most important part of all this data. And this is where you can see my second if march that I was using when I ran 7 marches on the field. And wow, it's kind of shocking. Now, guys, my Guan Skippy traded 2.14 to 1, and my Ragnar with Skippy traded 2.26 to 1. You guys see what I'm seeing? All I can say is that Guan Skippy is still a great march, okay? If you still have Guan Skippy and you've got the relic for him and you're like, I don't have the gold heads to get Ragnar, you honestly don't need to. They traded very similar, and you don't get the silence from the Guan if you replace him with Ragnar. Now, in Artifact KVKs or in the King of All Britain KVK, you can move this Ragnar around, and then you can bring back that Guan Skippy, and, he still fits in the meta really well. But as far as like actual relevance, like Guan Skippy is still a great march. I just want to preface, like, I didn't use this with my best set of gear. I used it with the same set of gear that my Skippy with Liu Che had. So if my Skippy with Liu Che traded 2.57 to 1, and then my Guan with Skippy traded 2.14 to 1, that just goes to show you, like, Skippy paired with Guan, guys, it's still really strong. So don't worry about it if you're still running Guan Skippy in the field. He's still really good. Is Ragnar an upgrade? Yes. But is he required? Honestly, no. So how would I take this data and kind of organize it into a statement as to what you guys should be investing in for the open field and what is the best march in the game? Well, honestly, your answer to that is whatever is paired with Liu Che is going to be your best march in the game. You can look at this trade ratio and you can think that Liu Che with Wallace is just absolutely insane, which is. However, you also have to keep in mind that that's where my iconic 5 set is with my best armaments. So it is going to trade the best because it has the best gear. If this had about the same gear as everything else, I imagine it would be similar to the Skippy with Liu Che trade ratio, which has more about the normal gear that a lot of people run. So what I will say is this: infantry are in a fantastic spot. Cavs are also in a really good spot for the open field. They trade pretty well and they're pretty fast. The one glaring weakness right now is archers for the open field. And the truth is that I don't know if it's a community thing. I don't know what's going on, if it's march speed, whatever it is, but archers just get targeted all the time. And the truth is that you have to target the Herman or else it will obliterate you on the open field. You guys see how much damage it did? It got me a ton of KP, but it just got targeted a ton. Now, my weakest march, besides obviously the XY William, which I imagine a lot of people aren't running nowadays, but who knows, the new Cav might make 3 marches for Cavs, really good in the future with 7. Anyway, my glaring weakness here really was the Shajar with Asher. I did actually like this march in the field when I was playing it because it is super tanky and it's super fast. So what would happen is people would actually target it and I would be like, oh, thank you. Just kind of in the same way that people would target, Trajan back in the day, and you'd be like, great, kill my Trajan and I'll just crush you with all my other marches. That's kind of how I felt. So the Shajar with Asher was actually super tanky. It did pretty well in the open field, and I feel like some of this data I wish that I captured, because I do believe that I did trade better than 1.67 to 1 with this march, but in the end, this is the data that we have, and so I'm going to show it to you. Do I think that the new Commander Philip might be an upgrade with Asher? I'm not sure. Like, should I bench the Shajar? Part of the Shajar is the healing. Part of the Shajar is buffing my other marches. Obviously, so is Philip. So honestly, we're going to have to wait until testing kind of further concludes in order for us to really know if I should bench that Shajar in the commander swap for Philip, and we will see. But in the end, I think that what archers really need is like a flat 10% march speed buff and a little bit more tankiness. So going down the list in kind of a star grading system, I'll just say it like this. Liu Che with Wallace, I'll give it a 9 out of 10 stars. Nevsky with Joan, I'll give it a 7.5 out of 10. Zio with Herman, I'll give it a 7.5 out of 10. Didn't trade as well, but got me a ton of KP, and the debuff is pretty mandatory. Skippy with Liu Che, I will give it a 9.5 to a 10 out of 10, just because I didn't use it with my best set of gear, and it traded really insanely positive. Shajar with Ashura, I'll give it a 6.5 out of 10. I liked what this march did. It served its purpose, but it clearly is very weak. My Hua with Belly and Hua with William, I will give a 7 out of 10. And then my XY with William, I will give a 5 out of 10. It wasn't my best. And then for the last two, I'm going to go ahead and grade my Ragnar with Skippy as an 8 out of 10. And then my Guan with Skippy at about a 7.5 out of 10. And that's it. We're back in Home Kingdom. I've kind of enjoyed being back, you know, a little break from the chaos, which was this KVK. Clearly, I have way too many gems right now because this new hammer event just came out, and yeah, it's one of the best values in the game. I did it off stream. I know I'm a terrible content creator. Guys, I just wanted to get it done. Just trying to take a break. But either way, I'm going to go spend the rest of this day and the next few days with my family. I hope you guys have a great Christmas or Hanukkah or whatever holidays you are celebrating at this time. Hopefully I'll have a stream for New Year's, something along those lines. I'll probably come out with another video talking about my goals for 2024, if I hit them or not, and then my future goals for 2025. But either way, stay tuned, guys. And again, I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.